Well, still staying then on the subject of local government elections, we're joined by the ANC's Pule Mabe just to reflect on how the nominations processes and the submissions of lists has gone for the party. Of course, throughout the day, we've seen different protests in some areas where the final lists are being contested. Pule, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Well, evening and evening to your viewers.
Great to have you in studio. It's been a long time since we've been able to actually host people in studio. So let's talk about the process in terms of where it is for the ANC. We heard the comments made by the Deputy Secretary General of the party about the submissions to the IEC.
Yes.
Given where we are as the day ends, what is causing the contestation and the objections to those final lists as they stand?
Afternoon again, Oskathy. We have made the cutoff yesterday of 21 hours. The Deputy Secretary General did speak to the media to confirm that we have indeed made those submissions. The ANC is a big organization. Every time when we have got electioneering, we will have cadres raising different disputes. And when those disputes are raised, we always subject them to internal process of the organization. We are doing this to make sure that the credibility and integrity of ANC processes is not under any question. Of course, what we did, especially in 2011, we had, after the 2011 local government elections, we had that commission that was led by Mamangwazana Dlamini Zuma. And once that report was produced, painting a picture that there could have been some form of manipulation in certain of the wards in terms of the ward councillor candidate that would have been registered with the IEC. Once that was discovered, we immediately instructed that they should be by-election held to be able to rectify that. So basically, going out to try and manipulate ANC processes is not helpful. It's just, you are just delaying yourself, because when investigations are done and then the organization arrives at the determination that there was some manipulation or undermining of ANC processes, even if that was to happen after elections and say the ANC has won that particular ward, it will introduce a by-election in that specific ward.
So who is trying to manipulate the processes right now?
Well, I'm not saying there's anyone trying to manipulate processes. I'm giving a picture of what would have happened in the past. You see, and I mean, cadres came to Lituli House over this past weekend. They were coming from Northwest. They brought their own memorandums. And those issues that they would have reflected upon, the leadership then directs them to the relevant dispute resolution committees of the African National Congress. In terms of the lists, we have got the electoral committee that is led by the former deputy president of the African National Congress, Comrade Kgalema Motlanthe. We also have got regional intervetting and interviewing panels at the regional level, which are also working with the provincial list committees. But also the 54th National Conference of the ANC regularized dispute resolution. It established the National Dispute Resolution Committee. So there are sufficient platforms in the ANC to be able to deal with whatever dispute that could be raised by our own cadres.
So why are you saying this? Are you saying this as a response to those that have been protesting today, some that we have seen in KZN? We also know that the nominations process, particularly in Moses Mabhida, has been described as being quite chaotic in and of itself. So are you saying to your members that are currently disgruntled with the state of the nomination lists that there are ways to change those nominations in future, or to correct what they may see as having been wrong?
Well, assurance we are giving to our members is that ANC processes do provide platforms for them, because I mean they are really complaining about an array of issues. I mean, others would be raising issues about those cadres that would have been asked to step aside. because they are appearing in courts of laws,
So
and
are
they
you
will
saying
not
that
be able...
they shouldn't protest, and what they should rather be doing is using the mechanisms in the party?
Well, we can't stop members of the African National Congress to choose whatever method that they elect to choose in terms of making their views or points known to the organization. I mean, it's really their right. There's what we try and appeal for. We always make an appeal that they must have full confidence in internal process of organization and their ability to be able to resolve whatever issues that they may have. Unfortunately, what we can't do is that the ANC is not gonna be able to deal with issues that it has already adjudicated upon and there is a decision. It's possible sometimes, Katie, that you might not be happy as an individual member or as a branch of the ANC, be happy about the decision of the organization. It doesn't mean that the organization, now that you have expressed yourself in the manner that you have, the organization must then now go back and change its own decisions. It doesn't work like that.
Has the party and the branches, have all branches been able to hold the branch general meetings, and have those meetings and their outcomes been audited by the ANC?
Well, of course, we've got an electoral committee that would have done that work, interacting directly with, it's not us in the National Executive Committee to actually be going all over the country to assess. I want to give that clarity. So what had happened is that there were BGMs held by all of the branches of the ANC that will have forwarded councillors. After those BGMs, because sometimes what becomes a dispute is that people or comrades that got to be nominated at the community meeting, because remember, this is now a new process. We now have got community meetings. Here is Kathy Mutlatlani Kosishihu nominated in Ward 1, so in a branch. But then Kathy, Stephen and Pule, the three of them are then taken like that by the branch executive committee to a community meeting. The community meeting then decide that, we don't want these three. Nominate Swu, who is a known pastor in the community. Swu makes it. So Kathy feels aggrieved that, but in the branch, I had felt so well. Then begins all manner of things. So you do have situations like that. So always, when there's a dispute, the leadership, through the relevant structures, seeks to then understand. I mean, we even looked at the raw data, the raw data that came from community meetings and that came from branches. I can tell you now that there are instances where the outcome of branches is different to the outcome of the community meeting.
So, but you are saying right now, Pule, I understand that it can be quite complex, but you are saying that from the party's perspective, you have held all the necessary branch general meetings, and the outcomes of those meetings have also been audited. That's the only thing I need you to clarify.
Well, of course. I mean, look, Kathy, by the time we hold the Special National Executive Committee, which basically takes the form of a list conference, we should have satisfied ourselves that our regions, through our provinces, have effectively dealt with the situation in the manner that the guidelines are really requiring them to. So the reason why they would have had their own special PECs before the special NEC was for them to be able to do the necessary ratifications at their level, so that when they make the presentation to us, what you are asking about has been actually satisfied.
All right.
From that point.
We're going to have to pause it there. We're in conversation with Pule Mabe. Of course, he is clarifying, as you're hearing, the position of the party in terms of the objections, the oppositions that there have been to some of the final lists that have been submitted to the IEC for their party candidates. We'll also find out from him what they're going to be doing with the DA's call for them to name their mayoral candidates. More after this. Do stay with us. You're live on The Pulse. We continue our conversation with ANC spokesperson Pule Mabe. Pule, we know that the ANC has been facing some serious financial challenges and difficulties. You haven't been able to pay staff their full salaries. There's been, reported in different media letters between the ANC and some of its staff for workers to come back effectively so that you could try and finalize some of these processes ahead of the IEC deadline. What has been the contribution of that to some of the chaos that has happened now? Have you been basically running out of time and chasing after time?
Well, not necessarily, Kathy. In fact, I should also have started by commending our staff for having been able to commit their time to make sure that we could meet the deadline. I mean, over the past 72 hours, especially when we were chasing the deadline, it was committed staffers of the African National Congress throughout the country, throughout our regions, 53 regions, throughout 9 provinces, at Lituli House, who were working with the SGO under the command of the Deputy Secretary General to make sure that we could be able to meet that deadline. And we must commend them for that. Where there are issues that pertains to delayed payment of salaries, there are internal structures of the ANC that ensures that communication does happen with staff. They are briefed about those kind of difficulties. The difference with the African National Congress is that even when it has got those kind of challenges, it doesn't pull back. The leadership doesn't pull back and not engage. As a Deputy Secretary General engages with staff, gives the necessary update. The TG is also able to give officials that kind of an update on the work that we are doing.
Is your organization bankrupt, Pule?
Well, I wouldn't really say that. I think all political parties, if you were to talk to them, it's just that you see, because the ANC is too big, so its problems tend to be big as well. But all organizations now, political organizations, are facing similar challenges.
But you're experiencing the worst of it, because out of these distributions from the IEC, not only is your cut lower than what it would have been generally, a chunk of your payouts so far have ended up with SARS to pay the outstanding bills at SARS. So that puts you in an even deeper financial problem.
Well, Kathy, I can tell you now and assure your viewers that